Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Today's episode is brought to you by SalesCred Pro, the strategic resource for B2B sales that fortifies your credibility and accelerates the trust building needed for building successful business relationships. Get your free 7-day trial now at salescred.com/pro. Welcome to the Manage Smarter podcast with hosts C. Lee Smith and Audrey Strong. We're glad you're here for discussions on new ways to manage smarter, hire, develop, and retain talent, improve results, and propel team performance to new heights. This is the Manage Smarter podcast.
Lee, you know this. I ran my own little LLC public relations firm for 10 years, and I was all referral. I mean, it was beautiful. I didn't have to go out and hustle. People, just the phone rang. It was the most wonderful business model ever. And our guest today, she has a new book out that's going to talk about that. She's got some ideas on how to make that happen.
Well, I mean, here's something that Sales Fuel, the railroad I've been running for 35 years or so, and also heavily reliant on not only referrals, but also people who have, been clients of ours and then left and went to another client or another company and took us with them. But Sales Fuel recently did a survey called Voice of the Sales Rep that might be germane to today's topic. Did you know, Audrey, that 36% of salespeople say that gaining referrals and testimonials is one of their top weaknesses as a salesperson?
Weaknesses? Wow.
Yes. And not surprisingly, over half of those folks often fail to make quota. So there is a correlation between the two. I would even go so far as to say it's a causation. But nonetheless, if you're not doing well at referrals or whatever, it's going to be a lot harder to make quota.
And you are going to need this gal's book. Wait till I do the intro. What a career she's had.
Yeah,
welcome to Manage Smarter, everyone. Yeah, we're happy she's here. We're happy you're here if you're listening. Thanks for coming. My name is Audrey Strong. I'm the Senior Vice President of Communications here at Sales Fuel.
And I am C. Lee Smith, the CEO and founder of Sales Fuel.
That's right. So Sue Heilbronner is our guest today. She's the author of, I love this title, Never Ask for the Sale. Supercharge Your Business with the Power of Passionate Ambivalence. How does that work? We're going to find out. She's a speaker, startup CEO, mentor. She's an adjunct professor of entrepreneurship. She's a facilitator and strategic advisor, a conscious leadership coach, and co-founder of the Merge Lane Investment Fund, creator of the Leadership Camp training program for high potential leaders. Get this, she's got a JD, former federal prosecutor, like she's not busy enough, and a direct and fearless catalyst for change. Began her career actually in the U.S. Department of Justice, Civil Rights Division, and then flipped over to business and helping large companies change their sales approach and kind of coaching on a lot of the things that we've just mentioned. Serves as a mentor with Techstars, and she is currently an adjunct professor of law at the University of Colorado Law School. She's got a BA from Oberlin College there in Ohio with UP, and a master's of public policy from Duke, and lives in Boulder and my hometown of Chicago. Sue, my goodness.
How do you put that into a 2-minute bio? You talking about the 2-minute bio?
Yeah, you omit almost all of that, but that was very, very nice. And Audrey, nice pronunciation on my last name. How'd you do that?
Well, because when we get all the information, we always listen to all your other shows, and we listen to how
we write it out phonetically.
So if you're a seller, that's tip number one is actually to know how your prospect's name. I'm not that I'm a prospect, but geez, that felt really loving.
You could be a prospect. By the end of the show, I'll make you a prospect.
Actually, yes, you two need to do the passionate ambivalence portion of the funnel right now. But anyway,
I got the passionate part down.
So never ask for the sale. Should we start with the book title and this whole referral coaching thing that you have going on? Where do you want to start? Do you want to talk about the funnel? Because there is a chart you sent over to us.
Sure. Well, why don't we first just talk about number one? Let's talk about the idea of never asking for the sale. And if it's okay with you all, I'd love, since we all spend a lot of time thinking about sales, to just I'd love to hear your views about this too. So my view about this is some people will call this conventional wisdom. I now think it's just conventional advice because wisdom is too positive a term. The reason that the book is titled Never Ask for the Sale is I want to make the point that selling is a mutual process. And if you as a seller are putting yourself in a subservient position to a prospect, you are limiting not only your opportunity to close, but you are also demeaning your price point and your long-term value to that customer. And that starts from the very first email outreach. Yes. So I'm curious what you all think of that.
Well, I mean, that is right up my alley. That is pretty much the crux of my book, Sales Cred, How Buyers Qualify Sellers. So we are of like mind on that, absolutely, all the way. Yeah. I mean, because, and there are things you can do naturally that get yourself on a level footing there. So you're not in that subservient position. It's like, oh, what are you doing today? Can I have a sale? It's really all about attracting people to you first. And then once you've done that, though, is providing them enough value right up front so that they know that they're dealing with a polished professional that knows what they're talking about, knows how to help, and quite frankly, somebody that they can value rather than somebody they can just figure out how to get rid of.
Yeah, Lee, it sounds like we're really in sync in terms of that philosophy. So the next thing just to talk about is this idea of passionate ambivalence, which I hope also resonates as like, what does that exactly mean? And the idea here is this really drives this mutuality of the sales process, starting at the very beginning of the funnel, incoming lead, you're at a wedding, everyone really is a prospect and you are always a seller or a founder or a business grower, no matter if you're at the farmer's market or if you are on a sales call. So the idea is that you are allowed to be as passionate as you are about a potential relationship, including personal, by the way, a piece of work, or a new transaction or new scope that might happen with a prospect. You can be passionate about it. I don't believe in this idea that you have to act indifferent.
You got to play it cool, right?
Yeah, yeah, right. You get this a lot with car dealers, right? You're not allowed to say, hey, that's a really sexy car. Like, I think that's dumb. I think you can do that. That's fine. Because you always have the power, whether you're a seller or a buyer, of navigating lower down in the funnel, which is pricing, terms, scope of work, how the relationship will function. On all of those things, my philosophy is you need to add in some ambivalence. And that looks like being unattached to whether or not any specific piece of business closes. And whether you're a founder trying to raise money for investors, or you are a seller trying to sell SaaS, or a solopreneur trying to sell consulting services, that level of, hey, I'm busy, if it's true, authentic is important. Mm-hmm. And I really would love to work with you. If what I outlined makes sense to you, let's really, think about it. And I'll look forward to hearing from you soon. And you won't hear from me between now and the next time I hear from you if you do. And that context, regardless of the words, is really powerful.
I love that. Go ahead.
No, well, you just talked about, you still have the power because it's further down in the funnel. Here's something else that I know that you and I are like-minded about is that obviously the buyer, the prospect can always say no. Guess what? I can say no.
So can you. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I always thought of sales maybe like before I came to work for Sales Fuel and mentoring from Lee. If you think of it like I'm a dog on a bone, rawr, like a little chihuahua, bark, bark, yip, 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 stay on top of all my leads and stuff. And I loved your funnel because you're going the exact opposite. In fact, your chart actually gave a very specific way to craft your follow-up email and what not to put in it. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because it's counterintuitive if you have the more caveman view of sales, which I used to have. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So first of all, I just want to say this funnel that you're referring to for your listeners is available now as a free giveaway. It's actually not in the book because the idea came up after the book, but it's available to anyone, whether you buy the book or not. And it's a great summary of this passionate ambivalence philosophy. So if you go to neveraskforthesale.com, you will be able to get that download. And I look forward to sharing it with you. The idea in these both in there, let's talk about fit calls first, right? Okay. And then we'll talk about that follow-up email. So a fit call is a great place to tee up this philosophy. And Lee, you've already alluded to it. Like we are equals. We are talking mutually about whether or not this is a fit. If your needs are outside the range of what my software can do, I'm not going to set myself up to have the product team hate me for the rest of my life. I'm going to be candid with what we can and cannot do. I am a coach, an executive coach. I am very candid about what my approach is. And when people are asking me questions that make me sell, I usually turn away. So they'll ask me a question like, this is an executive coaching context. Sue, what are the deliverables we can expect from a relationship with you as a coach? And my answer is, I have no idea. I don't even know you. We have met for 15 minutes. My answer is, I'm going to talk to you now for a half an hour total. And I hope, and you alluded to this too, Lee, I hope in this half hour you get one thing that's exceedingly valuable without paying me a cent. I am not going to save those insights. I'm going to try to give you an experience of what it's like to work with me right now. And if it doesn't feel like it's a fit, that's great. We're both going to be more successful by virtue of turning this entire idea down. So starting there. Then when I'm done with the conversation, like a fit call, and a follow-up email needs to happen, there's usually something that happened in that fit call where my prospect will say something like, can you send me something to reflect what we just talked about? And I will say, sure, but I'm not going to send you a 25-page canned proposal with a lot of stuff you don't care about. I'm going to send you exactly what we agreed to on this phone call in bullets in an email that you can share with your check writer if you need to, if you're not the check writer. And I'll wait to hear back from you. You will not hear from me until you've had a chance to review this and you get back to me. And I look forward to hearing from you. And that's it. So this philosophy of sending email every day, bumping this up in your inbox, I just think that that puts you in an incredibly weak position for holding value premium pricing.
That really requires you, though, to have a lot of things top of funnel, right? Because like if you get them in, you have the conversation, you're not following up with them and trying to nurture that relationship and everything like that. You've got to basically have a lot of people that you can have those conversations with starting out, right?
Okay, well, Lee,
Or
let's
no?
test that just because I'm
Okay.
interested. Everyone on this call has had a lot of experience in this area. So everyone in this conversation. So my thesis is not only will the philosophy of passionate ambivalence guarantee that you have a happier life with more premium pricing, my philosophy is it's actually a technique to get to close.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so how does that work?
Well, you're letting them know I have my own business. Things
hmm
are going well. If they are, again, I'm never deceptive.
You're
I'm
not
always
looking
authentic.
desperate.
Yeah, that's it. I'm not looking desperate. And my story is every time I had someone once say, well, yeah, I float them a text every day or so. And I thought,
I'd
well,
be
you
so
float.
annoyed.
Yeah, I was seriously annoyed. And my story is every time you do that, your price point goes down 10%. So I'm not simply saying, I'm actually saying this is a method to get to close. You talked about referrals, and that could be a lot of different contexts, but I'm going to talk about it here just for a second. There are instances where I am too full to take a client, and I'll say something like, well, I can take you 3 months hence, or your price point or your budget, whatever your amount you want to spend, isn't on par with what we're looking at. I might say something, we might get to that point. And I will say something like this: I would be delighted to recommend someone else in my network to you. And sometimes they say, okay. But 90% of the time, they say, I will wait for you, or I will find the money in the budget to afford you.
And
Yep,
this
Does
that's
that?
approach
true.
would work for, so I was professional services, and I always said, here's a tip to all our listeners. If you're looking to hire a public relations professional, you need to hire somebody who's so busy they're not taking new clients because they are. If they're not busy, you don't want them. But does that work if I'm selling widgets or if I'm selling, scissors? Like, does this cars you mentioned? Does this model work for whatever you're selling across the board in general?
Audrey, I don't want to say for whatever you're selling because I definitely don't know everything. I've had experience selling software. I've had experience selling clothes.
Okay.
I've had experience selling slots in an accelerator program because for the best companies, actually, the sale is from the investor to the startup. So in lots of contexts. And I do think there's slightly different techniques you need to use, like
Okay.
techniques like if I'm looking at a software product, we've all done this, and they've got a drip funnel where they have a drip campaign that follows up on me getting a demo. And it says, well, here's another thing you can do with Descript, the video editing tool. And on Tuesday, it's here's something else. Did you think about this? Is something you can do on Descript? I actually think that's quite helpful. And I think if you are doing that kind of follow-up, the way to do it is giving something of value to your prospect whenever you follow up. If you're I mean, seriously, if you follow up with me as a seller in one of two ways, one of them is you make the email urgent. Like, no, you do not decide what is urgent for me, one. Or two, you want to bump something up in my inbox because that's a good idea. Like that is not valuable to me. So I really urge people, even in SaaS, even BDRs or SDRs, to keep delivering value.
Yeah, your timeline's not my timeline
Right.
necessarily. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's follow your advice and your approach here when it comes to referrals. So are you advocating then, rather than asking for a referral, just knock their socks off with the service and the value that you
Mhm.
provide them or whatever, and let them provide a referral to you on their own?
Oh, when you say so when I say referral, I'm talking about referring business out to another party. It's that PR
Right.
situation you referred to, Audrey, where the
Mhm.
person, I have one person I've been chasing for like 25 years, by the way.
Okay.
I mean, either she must at this point just must not like me, but I had never thought of that. Anyway, I'm thinking about referring business to my network of other partners who
Hmm.
also are in kind of the same business of consultant, facilitator, or
Oh,
executive coach. How are you thinking about referral, Lee?
Well, okay, so let's say that you are consulting then with someone in the IT industry, and maybe they say, well, you've done a great job with me or whatever. I know of somebody, whatever, that could use your services or could benefit from knowing you, for example, yeah, and giving you a name, a phone number, or an email address, or something like that.
Yeah, okay. Great. Word of mouth referrals, great.
yes,
I
that's a
mean, yeah, that is, as we all know, like that's the ball game, and
That's
that's
the gold.
everything
Yeah.
when that can happen. Now, I will still, and I'm sure you all do this too, I will never reach out cold to that person or that company. I will ask the person who wants to make that recommendation to handle that with a warm introduction and ensure that it's a double opt-in introduction and they want to meet me as much as the other person wants me to meet them. That's all clean. So still though, so they're then emailing me. I actually care about that dynamic versus me saying, hey, Bob thinks that we would be a great fit. Do you want to talk? I'd rather Sam write me and say, Bob thinks that you would be a great fit for us.
Mm.
We'd love to talk to you.
that makes
Yeah.
sense.
So basically, the bottom line here, we're not chasing. And not only am I not going to waste your time, but I'm not going to waste my time either.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
So
right. And go
I have,
ahead.
I have a question on the rate integrity issue then, because so you're saying every time that you be, become more weak with your hat further in your hand, for lack of a better term, you lose rate integrity. How do I lose rate integrity? Because I know what my price is, and I may not. I could still make the decision not to knock it down
You,
if they
you,
ever come to the table.
you're right. There might be instances where you are not compromising your rate integrity and you still have the ability to say no.
Okay.
My belief is that you create if you have too much time on your hands to try to be pushing someone over the clothesline, COLOSE line.
SE.
Yeah.
Finish line, finish
Yes,
line.
exactly. If you are doing that, their impression of your value is getting dinged at some level. Now,
Mhm.
that may or may not correlate to price, but you run the risk of it coming up because you are chasing them. And the difference is if I let an opportunity breathe, if I have the luxury of doing that, by the way, I think almost everyone has the luxury of doing that. If I let it breathe and they don't feel me pushing them, they are more likely to come back to me on my price and my terms or
Yeah,
with a
it's,
better impression of me. That might be the other way it goes. It may not actually be monetary because I agree, Audrey, you have the right to hold price.
I mean, so basically, so a quarter only a quarter of Americans view salespeople as credible in what they say and do. So what that means is, as salespeople, we're basically starting relationships generally one step behind, or one step underneath of them. So I would view it as 10%. So basically now you're 1.1 steps behind. Now you're 1.4 steps behind. It's like instead of being on level footing with that buyer and actually having a mutual relationship, you're putting yourself farther in the position of being a salesperson rather than being a business consultant or an advisor.
Yes, I think that's right.
Yeah, we got about 2 minutes left. Lee, you want to
Holy
take the last
moly.
question? I know. Can you believe it? This has been so interesting.
You guys are great.
Oh,
So what advice would you give then to somebody that's used to, doing the sequences and doing the hard sell and all, and calling up every so often, everything like that, and getting them to transition to your approach and your way of doing the same thing, because it's a bit of a transition, right? It's like, and they're going to fail at it starting out, for a while, but it's like, what advice can you give, or what strategy do you have basically to get them from point B to point C?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So first, it's just going to feel really uncomfortable. And what I always say to my coaching clients is, hey, if you can change something 10%, you don't have to change from, being white. You don't have to change from being like a perfect intellectual to a jokester. You just have to become a little more laid back now and then. Might be something that might come up for somebody who's hyper intellectual or has one way of approaching decisions at a company. I would say that to the salesperson. I would say, look, why don't you take 10% of your funnel, just 10%, and why don't you try a different sequence or no sequence and just do an A/B test, which is, we're all entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. All entrepreneurs are going to be willing to do. Experimentation is huge here. Notice that you're incredibly uncomfortable. Tell your boss that you're doing it if you have a boss. So your boss isn't breathing down your neck, asking you to report on metrics that are mainly vanity metrics that are not necessarily indicators of outcomes, but indicators of activity. And say that for this tranche of leads, I'm going to qualify them a little further. I'm going to do a fit call that's a little more mutual. And in the post-fit call process, I'm going to let things breathe a little bit without a daily sequence of follow-ups. You okay with that? Cool, great, okay. And see what the results are. That's what I would say.
Sometimes you got to let the wine breathe.
Okay, so, and the book, everybody, is Never Ask for the Sales, Supercharge Your Business with the Power of Passionate Ambivalence. And she's got another website. It's heysue.com, everyone. And then, Sue, what was the other one? It's
neveraskforthesale.com for that giveaway on the funnel.
That sounds good. Well, this has been very informative and
very
a topic
fast.
we have not done. So thank you so much for coming on the show. We sure appreciate it.
Thank you all for having me. It's been a great conversation.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and recommend on iTunes, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more great information at salesfuel.com.
Mint is still $15 a month for premium wireless. And if you haven't made the switch yet, here are 15 reasons why you should. 1, it's $15 a month. 2, seriously, it's $15 a month. 3, no big contracts. 4, I use it. 5, my mom uses it. Are you playing me off? That's what's happening, right? Okay, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, $15 per month equivalent required. New customer offer first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.